You know, one person who did get a lot of buzz after the first debate was Marianne Williamson.
Yeah.
She was the most searched candidate on Google, and a lot of it happened after this big moment. Watch.
And I will tell her girlfriend you were so on, because the United States of America is going to be the best place in the world for a child to grow up.
All that buzzy moment, it didn't help her in the polls. Why?
No. Because she's not a serious candidate for the presidency of the United States of America. Democrats like an insurgent and an outsider, but they're not going to go for somebody who's, I mean, she's a terrific author and very successful in many ways. It's not a president of the United States.
Right now, you're looking at live pictures coming to us from the debate hall. Marianne Williamson is doing her walkthrough of the CNN debate stage. She's probably the candidate who has the biggest uphill climb to break through on tonight's stage. But if the last debate is any indication, she will likely have some colorful moments. Let's bring in Jeff Zeleny and Kyung Law from Detroit. Now, Jeff, she did actually kind of break through last debate, but maybe not for exactly the right reasons or for what you would expect from a candidate.
Well, Brandon, she certainly did. I mean, she was I would say the freshest candidate in terms of her voice and what she had to say in terms of, she wasn't spouting policies. In fact, I remember at that Miami debate, she, sort of praised President Trump by saying his slogan of "Make America Great Again" was something that resonated with voters. It wasn't something that, a 10-point policy plan. So, look, she is a best-selling author. She is a motivational speaker. So she is going to have her voice up there tonight, but it may also, Brianna, be her last debate that she has. She is not, essentially raising much money or polling as strongly as some of the others.
Let's look at her compared to the other 9 people on the stage. Yeah. Okay? She is a professional performer. She's a very smart person. She knows how to play to an audience. She knows how to hit her tones. She knows what the good story is. I was talking to somebody who knows her really well, and they said, this comes easy to her. She's used to being on the road in front of big crowds, okay? Now, I got to tell you, I've seen her before the debates. I've seen her after the debates. I've had discussions with her about how the debates are going to run. She comes in with a very slowed down energy. When she walks out onto that stage, she flips the switch and she comes up very hard. Now, to the idea that Marianne Williamson is going to be elected president is absolutely ludicrous, right? The idea that the United States government is going to open up its treasury and cut checks on reparations. It's just not going to happen.
I know a lot of people like to mock her, but honestly, I think she brought it for that.
You really did.
Jennifer, you think she could be the nominee of the Democrats?
Oh, no, I nominee, but I do think
right,
that
okay, I just want to clear that up.
Yeah, I mean, no,
But she is speaking to some people that others aren't, and she's saying things which others are not.
She always answers questions on a different level than everybody else.
I don't think she'll be the nominee, but she had 2 of the biggest moments in the debate last night. She drew the biggest applause throughout the entire debate with both of her lines on Flint, Michigan, and on reparations and race.
All right, she's probably the most unconventional of all of the candidates we've seen on the debate stage, and yet she is zoning in rhetorically on what Democratic voters are connecting with.
She gave numbers too. Here's my point. Of all the people, again, mocking her as a fellow minister, I'm not going to do that at all because I think her vision is powerful.
I really want to play Marianne Williamson, okay? Because the Twitterati, is that what you call it? Avalon's like so over this, right? I won't make you answer this question. But let's just play a few of the highlights from Marianne Williamson last night.
We have communities, particularly communities of color and disadvantaged communities all over this country, who are suffering from environmental injustice. This is part of the dark underbelly of American society. The racism, the bigotry. It's $500 billion, $200 to $500 billion, payment of a debt that is owed. That is what reparations is. We need some deep truth-telling. We need to recognize that when it comes to the economic gap between blacks and whites in America, it does come from a great injustice that has never been dealt with.
I don't know. What do you make of her? What does she mean for this party and this, divide and debate over where's the heart of the party?
But listen, I really can't speak to her appeal, right? I don't.
You're not her demo.
I'm not her demographic, right? I do think, however, she makes some very valid points about reparations. She obviously strikes a chord amongst a certain group of folks in the party, and as you point out correctly, she's like, look, I'm as lefty as everybody else, but I think you guys are going too far.
That was so striking.
When she says that, Like, I think the party should take, this isn't Rahm Emanuel, this is now your spiritual advisor, right, telling you this, right?
So maybe if she had...
Dial it back, people.
But can I just make a point? Because David obviously wants for us to all be painted in this whole, like, everyone's for Medicare for all.
It's a fact. That's what everybody said. I want to paint it. That's how it is.
That was the focus last night.
Other than Googling Jim Sciutto, the most searched candidate on Google last night, Jim, who do you think it was?
Marianne Williamson, apparently.
Yada, 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 obviously. Likely due to standout moments like this.
If you think any of this wonkiness is going to deal with this dark psychic force of the collectivized hatred that this president is bringing up in this country, then I'm afraid that the Democrats are going to see some very dark days.
That phrase by Williamson, dark psychic force, catching the eye of a lot of people. It was trending on social media as well. Joining us now, Oliver Darcy, CNN Business senior media reporter with more. So tell us how big a spike you saw for that. And I guess I'm curious as well, does that often translate into political support following a debate like this?
Yeah, if we're talking about a candidate that generated a lot of online buzz last night, the clear winner is Marianne Williamson. Despite being one of the candidates who actually received the least amount of speaking time, we tallied it up, and outside Hickenlooper, I believe she was the person that received the least amount of speaking time. She seemed to have generated the most online buzz. Google released those search results and said that she was the most searched candidate during the debate last night, and that stat even becomes more striking when you look at the state-by-state breakdown before the debate. Before the debate, you could see support divided between Sanders and Warren and Buttigieg. But after the debate, if we have that map, I think, if you look at it, Williamson is dominating every single state except for Montana, where, of course, Bullock is governor. So a clear win in terms of generating online buzz on Google for Williamson last night. I should note, though, that this does not mean that she's the most supported candidate. People Google candidates because they might want to see more about them, learn more about them, relive that viral moment that she had when she had a few. But she is the most searched candidate coming out of last night's debate.
Marianne Williamson will most likely not make the next debate.
Yeah, so I guess I don't mean to be dismissive entirely of Marianne Williamson's campaign, but I do think there's a sense within the broader Democratic Party that Williamson's campaign is just not necessarily a very serious campaign. Already we have qualifications for the next debate that's going to be held in Houston in September. Thus far, there's 8 candidates who have qualified, met those fundraising and polling requirements, and Williamson's most likely not going to be on stage. So, while I think her stances are really interesting to some folks, and there is a kind of curiosity of her and of her campaign, I would say broadly speaking, there's a consensus that she's not really a serious candidate in the party.
I'm not saying Marianne Williamson's going to take off and win the nomination, but people are looking for different. They don't trust politicians.
No question, and I bet she'll get more phone calls from some advisors, people sort of advising her how to do this. That was one difference with Donald Trump. He had some political pros around him, and he'd thought about running several times before. She's a breath of fresh air in many respects, but the reality here is she was a celebrity coming into this. She'll be a celebrity leaving this race, and that's probably why she's here.
And nobody used their time better last night than she did. She didn't have a huge amount of it, but every time she spoke, she said something memorable. And you can't say that for many of those candidates.
That being said, I think she may need to talk to some of her campaign staffers, because some of them were going around the spin room last night saying that the main goal for her is to communicate a message of peace and of love and not necessarily win the White House.
But what she did in the post game, she was pushed on the question, maybe this isn't going to work out with you being the nominee. And she said she's an Elizabeth Bernie person if she had to choose in the end. But she said, give me a chance. I'm going to fight on. I'm enjoying this. She was surprised. She came in, she said, I didn't think I did that well. But then the reaction has been pretty good, so we'll see.
Marianne Williamson.
Thank you. In 1776, our founders brought forth on this planet an extraordinary new possibility. It was the idea that people, no matter who they were, would simply have the possibility of thriving. We have not ever totally actualized this ideal, but at the times when we have done best, we have tried. And when forces have opposed them, generations of Americans have risen up and pushed back against those forces. We did that with abolition, and with women's suffrage, and with civil rights. And now it is time for a generation of Americans to rise up again. For an amoral economic system has turned short-term profits for huge multinational corporations into a false god. And this new false god takes precedence over the safety and the health and the well-being of we, the American people, and the people of the world, and the planet on which we live. Conventional politics will not solve this problem, because conventional politics is part of the problem. We, the American people, must rise up and do what we do best and create a new possibility. Say no to what we don't want and yes to what we know can be true. I'm Marianne Williamson, and that's why I'm running for president.